Hello students, I am Ms. Thandore SS. Let us start with crystal field theory. Last time we have seen VBT, valence bond theory. Today we are going to start with the CFT, that is crystal field theory. But before that, I am reminding you to like, share and subscribe my channel if it is not subscribed yet, so that you will get notifications of new videos there. So let us see what is a crystal field theory. According to crystal field theory, the ligands and central metal atom, these are connected with each other by ionic bond. I'll write here. In between ligands and central metal atom, there is a ionic bond. That means in crystal field theory, it is considered as ligands and central metal atoms. These are joined together by electrostatic force of attraction here. In case of valence bond theory, there is a hybridization. The bond is a coordinate bond because ligand donate a pair of electron for the bond formation to central metal atom. There is a hybridization. So in case of CFT or crystal field theory, it doesn't explain hybridization of the orbital. According to crystal field theory, the ligand and central metal atom, these are connected with each other by electrostatic force of attraction. That means the bond in between central metal atom and ligand is electrostatic force of attraction, that is the ionic bond here. And I'll write here, metal and these ligands are connected with each other by ionic bond. That means what? The metals having positive charge while ligands having negative charge here. Then the second, these are the assumptions of crystal field theory actually. Second is what? The ligands and central metal atoms, I'll write here, ligands and central metal atoms, these are considered as point charges. Point charges. In case of negatively charged ligands, I'll write here negative ligands. When these are anionic ligands, anionic ligands. So these anionic ligands are considered as negatively point ligands. And wherever neutral ligands are there, then the neutral ligands are considered as dipole. What is a di means 2. Dipole, that means positive and negative charges are present in the same molecule. So this is a dipole, and hence in case of, according to CFT or according to crystal field theory, the ligands, ionic ligands are considered as negatively point ligands or negatively charged ligands or negatively point ligands, and neutral ligands are considered as a dipole there. Then the hybridization is not explained by CFT. So next point is about the hybridization. So this theory, it doesn't explain hybridization. In case of VBT, there is a hybridization. Different type of hybridization is there. So this CFT doesn't explain hybridization. Just according to CFT, the bond in between ligands and central metal atom is your ionic bond. That means ligand and central metal atoms are connected with each other by electrostatic force of attraction here. And this is the main postulate of the CFT or crystal field theory. Means what? This complex is, I'll write here, coordinate compound. According to CFT, the coordinate compound is what? It is an electrostatic model. Electrostatic model here. In which what happens? It is an electrostatic model in which what happens? The ligand and central metal atom join together by ionic bond. The ligand donate a pair of electrons, so it acquires negative charge while the central metal atom acquire positive charge. Wherever neutral ligands are there, the neutral ligands are acts as a dipole compound, where positive and negative charges are present here. So these are the main postulate of crystal field theory. According to this, it doesn't explain about hybridization, it doesn't explain the coordinate bond or covalent bond also. So the theory is different between the different from valence bond theory. So in case of crystal field theory, the main postulate, you remember that the ligand and CMA, these are joined by electrostatic force of attraction. That means the coordinate compound is electrostatic model. If you consider the, I'll write here only, if you consider the octahedral complex, that means what? The coordination number is 6. If right, coordination number is a 6, then the geometry is octahedral, you know that. Octahedral. And hybridization is what? Hybridization is also well familiar to you. We have seen already in the valence bond theory. So hybridization is what? Either it is D2sp3 or it is sp3d2. What is the difference in between this D2sp3 and sp3d2? In D2sp3, the d orbital is the inner orbital, n minus 1 d orbital is present. In sp3d2, the d orbital is the outer orbital, it is nd orbital present. N is your principal quantum number, you know that. So wherever this type of hybridization is there, D2sp3 or sp3d2, then in that case, which d orbital is used? Actually, there are 5 suborbitals, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Out of this, one is your dxy. This is also well familiar to you. Another one dyz. Third one is dxz. Fourth one is dx square minus y square. And fifth one is dz square. So these are the d orbitals. I'll write here. First is your dxy. Then second one is your dyz. Third is your dxz. Then fourth orbital, I'll write here. Fourth orbital is your d, then x square minus y square. And fifth one is your dz square orbital. So out of this dxy, dyz and dxz, these are lying in between the two axes here. These dxy, dyz and dxz orbitals are lying in between the axes, while here dx square, y square and dz square, these orbitals are lying on the axis there. For example, if we see the diagram, then in that case, I'll show you a diagram also. Suppose this is your x-axis and this is your y-axis. Then in that case, in case of dxy, we'll see first orbital here, that is dxy. Then this dxy is lying in between these two axes here, x and y. This is a dumbbell shaped, so it is lying in between the axes. Then another one is a dyz orbital. So here also, for example, you consider here. Suppose this is your y-axis. We want here dyz orbital. So suppose this is your y-axis and suppose this is z-axis. Then in that case, here also your orbital is lying in between the two axes here. These are dumbbell shaped. So this is what? Another one, that is dyz orbital. Then third one is what? Third one is your dxz. Dxz is lying in between x and y axis. So again, suppose this is your x axis, this is your z axis, then in that case also your orbitals are lying in between these two axes. And this is your dxz orbital. So wherever there is a dy, dxy, dyz and dxz orbitals are there, then these orbitals are lying in between the axis. But if you consider the another one, that is dx square y square orbital, I'll show below. Suppose this is your again x axis and this is your y axis. Then dx square y square, it is exactly on the axis. This is exactly on the axis. D x square minus y square. Similarly, dz square is exactly, it is on the z axis. Suppose this is your z axis. Then in that case, the orbital is lying exactly on the axis and this is your dz square. Dz square. Another orbital can be shown with the help of so this is remaining, that is x and y orbital. So in this case what happens? Z square or dx square y square, these orbitals are lying exactly on the axis while remaining orbitals are lying on the in between the axis here. So in case of CFT, there is a splitting of d orbitals. So these three which are lying in between the axis, these are called as EG orbitals, while the remaining two which are exactly on the axis, these are, this is your T2G actually, and the another one which is lying exactly on the axis, these are called as EG orbitals. So in case of crystal field theory, the orbitals which are lying on the axis, that is dx square minus y square and dz square, these orbitals are lying on the axis and these are called as EG orbitals, while the remaining which are lying in between the axis, these are called as T2G orbitals. So let us see splitting of this d orbital here. In case of, first we'll go for octahedral complexes. In octahedral complexes, I told you the coordination number of a central metal atom is 6 and the hybridization is either D2sp3 or sp3d2. So I'll erase all these things and we'll go for now. We'll consider first octahedral complexes. Complexes where coordination number is a 6 and the hybridization is sp3d2 or it is d2sp3. You are supposed to remember this question, maybe for MCQ. I told you every time it is sp3d2 or d2sp3, geometry is octahedral and coordination number is 6 here. So what is the octahedral geometry? Actually in octahedral geometry, there are 4 bonds which are lying at the corner of square planar and one bond is above the plane while other one is below the plane. So this is your above the plane and below the plane. Another one is your, suppose this is your square planar structure. At the center there is a metal atom and these are the ligands. Actually this is a structure of your octahedral complex here. So in this case what happens, if you consider this whole axis, then suppose this is x, this is your x axis, this is your y axis and this is your z axis. And in case of crystal field theory, one more assumption is that only there is a splitting of d orbital. S and p orbital remains as it is. There is no splitting of s and p orbital, only d, there is a splitting of d orbital. And in d orbital, I told you which d orbital is used here. It is dx square minus y square, and dz square orbital is used in the sp3d2 hybridization. So here in this case, this x square, y square and dz square orbital, these are lying on the axis, and hence suppose this is x, y and z axis. Then when ligand approach the central metal atom, it is the central metal atom is attached with the 6 ligand, as your coordination number is the 6. Then in this case, when ligand approach the central metal atom, then there is a splitting of d orbital. We'll take here, suppose this is your d orbital. Five loops are there. I'll write this is a d orbital and this is a degenerate d orbital. What is a degeneracy? Now again you are well familiar. We have studied in 11th standard. So these are, I'll write here, degenerate d orbital. Degenerate, that means all the orbital or suborbitals having same energy, equal energy. These are the degeneracy or degenerate orbital. So when the metal atom having 5 degenerate orbitals are there, in that case when ligand approach the metal atom, then in that case just energy goes on increases slightly. Suppose after approaching central metal atom by ligand, this is the energy of degenerate orbital, and when your ligand come closer to it, then in that case the ligand comes closer to the central metal atom, then in that case there is a repulsion in between the electrons of central metal and electrons of ligands here, and as a result what happens, the energy goes on increases and there is a splitting of these orbitals. So here in this case, when the ligand attacks central metal atom from closely, then in that case there is a splitting of these d orbitals and it gives here, suppose this is Eg and these are T2g orbital. 1, 2. So this is your T2g orbital. First, the metal atom having degenerate d orbital. When the ligand approach the central metal atom, then energy goes on increases slightly, and when the ligand come closer to central metal atom, it attacks central metal atom, then in that case what happens, there is a repulsion in between the electron of metal and electrons of ligand, and the energy goes on increases and there is a splitting of these d orbitals here. And after splitting, what happens, the orbital which are lying on the axis, these are separated from the other orbital which are lying in between the axis. So in between the axis, I told you this is your dxy, then dyz and dxz orbitals. These are called as a T2g in crystal field theory, while the remaining orbitals are your dx square minus y square and dz square. So why energy of these orbitals is higher than energy of dxy, dyz and dxz? Because your ligand approach the central metal atom along the axis, not in between the axis. And that's why the orbital which are lying on the axis, the energy of that orbital is higher than the remaining orbital, and hence they are goes up, while the energy of remaining orbital is less than the EG orbital or the orbital which are lying on the axis. So this is about the energy difference in between T2G and EG orbital, and this difference in energy is called as, where should I show? I'll show here. The difference in energy is called as delta zero. Difference in between energy of T2G and EG is your delta zero, while the point from which the splitting takes place is called as a barycenter or barycenter here. I'll show the point also. So this point is called as your barycenter, or this is also called as a barycenter, any pronunciation. Then the distance in between the EG and barycenter is considered as plus 0.6 delta zero. It is a distance or the energy difference in between this EG and barycenter. This is your 0.6 delta zero, while the other one, the energy difference in between T2G and barycenter, it is taken as minus 0.4 delta zero. And so the barycenter is nothing but it is the average energy of EG and T2G, and this is always taken as a zero. Why it is zero? Because it is a sum of energy difference between EG and T2G. This is your energy difference in between barycenter and EG, that is a 0.6 into delta zero, while the other one is energy difference in between the barycenter and T2G, and this is taken as a 0.4 delta zero. What is a barycenter? Barycenter is nothing but just it is a point from which exact splitting in between the orbital, d orbital, takes place here, and the orbital which are lying on the axis, these are called as EG orbitals, while the another orbital which are lying in between the axis, these are T2G orbital. We are talking about splitting of d orbital only, because CFT or crystal field theory tells us about only the splitting of d orbital and not splitting of s and p orbital here. So remember this thing, this is the main postulate or main assumption of the crystal field theory. So after breaking d orbital, you will get EG orbital, that means the orbital lying on the axis, and the other group is a T2G orbital which are lying in between x and y axis there, and the difference in between the barycenter and EG is taken as 0.6 delta zero, while the difference in between barycenter and this T2G is taken as minus 0.4 delta zero, and this barycenter is nothing but it is the average energy of EG and T2G. So what is the barycenter energy, or why it is a zero? Because it is average energy, it is a sum of these two. EG, I'll write here, barycenter having zero energy center, and this is what? Sum of energy of EG and energy of T2G there. So what is the energy of EG and T2G? How it becomes zero? So actually this is 0.6. In your textbook it is given as 2 by 5. In textbook this instead of 0.6 delta 0 it is given as 3 by 5 delta 0, and 0.4 delta 0 is given as 2 by 5 delta 0. So actually 2 by 5 becomes 0.4. It is a negative quantity and this is a positive quantity, while this becomes 0.6 delta 0. So you can use any, that depends upon you. You can write 3.5 delta 0 also, that is also okay. minus 2 by 5 delta 0, that is also okay. So it is what barycenter, it is average energy and it is just sum of energy of Eg and T2G here. So let us see what is it. 0.6 delta 0, there are two orbitals, so it is your 0.6, this is a plus quantity into 2, and as it is a sum, it is a plus into bracket minus 0.4 into 3 orbitals are there, dxy, dyz and dxz into 3 delta 0. So this is equal to 6 2s are 12, so it is a 1.2 plus into minus 4 3s are 12 again 1.2 delta 0, and this is equal to 0. Plus 1.2 minus 1.2 is a 0. So this is the energy of barycenter there. So barycenter is nothing but just it is a point at which the splitting of d orbital takes place. Once again I am reminding, we are talking about octahedral complexes where coordination number is a 6 and the geometry is hybridization is sp3, d2 hybridization, or it is a d2 sp3. d2 hybrid orbital used is dx square minus y square and dz square orbital. So wherever the dx square minus y square, these are lying on the axis, and hence when ligand approach to d orbital of metal atom, then in that case the energy of Eg, that means dx square minus y square and dz square orbital increases, and the other orbitals goes or energy of other orbital is goes on decreases here. So the difference in between Eg and T2G is called as a barycenter, and it is equal to 0. It is barycenter is nothing but just it is average energy in between Eg and T2G there. So why energy of Eg goes on increases? Because the ligand approach central metal atom along the axis, and along the axis these orbitals are present. So there is a repulsion between electrons of ligand and electrons of central metal atom, and due to high repulsion the splitting takes place. So energy of Eg or energy of orbitals which are lying on the axis goes on increases, and hence the energy of dx square minus y square and dz square is more than remaining orbital which are lying in between the axis. So the orbital which are lying on the axis, these are called as Eg orbital, while the remaining orbitals are called as a T2G orbital, and the difference in between these two is your barycenter, or the point from which the splitting of d orbital takes place is your barycenter, and that is 0 always. Next we'll go for strength of ligand. So when there is strong ligand present, then in that case we'll take list of strong ligands also. Strong field ligands, and in strong field ligands there is a carbonyl stronger than cyanide, which is stronger than En ethylene diamine, which is stronger than NH3 ammonia. So these are the strong field ligands. Rest of all ligands are weak field ligands. So you remember this thing. You remember one more thing, wherever actually this strength of ligand depends upon the electronegativity of the atom which donate the electron pair for the bond formation here. In case of carbon, nitrogen, carbon is less electronegative than nitrogen, which is less electronegative than oxygen. So the atom which is less electronegative is a strong field ligand, while the atom which can donate the electron pair which is more electronegative is a weak field ligand. What is electronegativity? That also you know. Electronegativity is nothing but just it is a tendency of atom to attract electron pair towards itself. is the electronegativity. And so the carbon electronegativity of carbon is less than nitrogen, which is less than oxygen, and hence carbon can easily donate the electron pair for the bond formation. So wherever the carbon is a donor atom, in that case the electron it is a strong field ligand because it is a less electronegative. In case of carbonyl group, oxygen is there, but instead out of these two, carbon donate electron pair for the bond formation, and so this is a strong ligand. In case of carbon and nitrogen, here also carbon donate, so it is a strong ligand. Here nitrogen can donate a lone pair of electrons, so these are also the strong ligands in the distribution. All oxygen containing ligands, these are the weak ligands because oxygen is highly electronegative. It doesn't give electron pair for bond formation readily. It is not ready to lose electrons from itself, and that's why it is a weak field ligand. So these are the list of strong field ligand. You remember only carbonyl, cyanide, ethylene diamine and ammonia. These are the strong field ligands. Remaining all are weak field ligands here. So let us see, wherever there are strong field ligands, then in that case what happens? Suppose this is your strong field ligands. This diagram is for your SFL, strong field ligand. Then what happens? The distance in between the strong field ligand attacks the central metal atom is very forcefully, and as a result what happens? The distance between EG and T2G is more as compared to weak field ligand. Once again I am reminding, wherever strong field ligands are there, the approach of strong field ligand to central metal atom is very high. It attacks central metal atom very forcefully, and that's why the increase in energy is higher than weak field ligand, and hence the difference in between T2G and EG is more. If difference in between T2G and EG is more, then the delta 0 is larger than, greater than P. Now what is a P here? P is nothing but it is pairing energy. Now what is a pairing energy again? Pairing energy is energy required to pair up the electrons. So wherever distance in between EG and T2G is more or larger, delta 0 is more. And so when delta 0 is greater than pairing energy, then in that case, if delta 0 is greater than pairing energy, then it is a strong field ligand. Wherever there is a weak field ligand, we'll take one more diagram here. In case of, this is your d orbital, I'll show just 5 orbitals. This is your degenerate d orbital. When your ligand approach, I'll show below. This is your degenerate d orbital. When ligand approach, just energy goes on increases slightly, and when your ligand come closer, this d orbital split in 2 parts here. So this is a splitting. Suppose this is your weak field ligand, WFL. Ligand is a weak field ligand. Then in that case, here again you will get EG orbital because the orbital is octahedral complex. This is your T2G orbitals. 1, 2. This is T2G. But the difference in between this delta 0 is smaller in case of weak field ligand. So in case of weak field ligand, your delta 0 is less than delta 0 of strong field ligand. This is your delta 0 of weak field ligand. That means the difference in between EG and T2G is smaller than the difference in between EG and T2G in case of strong field ligands. And so your delta 0 in between, that means the energy difference in between EG and T2G, that is a delta 0 in case of weak field ligand, is less than the delta 0 of strong field ligand here. So in this case what happens? This delta 0 is less than pairing energy. And so wherever delta 0 is less than, that means the energy P, I told you what is a P, it is a pairing energy. And pairing energy, that means it is the energy required to pair up the electrons. So if the energy required to pair of electron is more, then in that case the energy electron first filled singly and then pairing takes place. That means wherever there is a weak field ligand and the difference in between Eg and T2G is less or smaller, in that case the Hund's rule is applied or follows to fill up the orbitals here. What is the Hund's rule? Again we are well familiar, we have studied already in the 11th standard. It is Hund's rule. That means what? First all the orbital filled singly and then pairing takes place. म्हणजे काय होतं, ऑक्टाहेड्रल कॉम्प्लेक्समध्ये CFT मध्ये काय, पुन्हा एकदा मराठीतून सांगते मी आता. CFT क्वेश्चन मे बी फॉर 3 मार्क्स ऑल्सो ऑन द CFT क्रिस्टल फील्ड थिअरी आहे. क्रिस्टल फील्ड थिअरीमध्ये मेन अझम्पशन्स काय आहे की क्रिस्टल फील्ड थिअरीमध्ये मेटल आणि लायगँड हे दोन इलेक्ट्रोस्टॅटिक फोर्स ऑफ अट्रॅक्शनमध्ये जोडलेले असतात एकमेकांना, म्हणजे बॉन्ड त्यांचा आयोनिक बॉन्ड असतो. त्याच्यामध्ये जो आयोनिक लायगँड आहे तो नेगेटिव्हली चार्ज लायगँड कन्सिडर केला जातो आणि दुसरा जो न्यूट्रल आहे तो डायपोल कन्सिडर केला जातो. डायपोल म्हणजे त्याच्यामध्ये पॉझिटिव्ह आणि नेगेटिव्ह चार्जेस एकत्र असतात. आता ऑक्टाहेड्रल कॉम्प्लेक्समध्ये काय होतं, पहिल्यांदा डी ऑर्बिटल, इथं फक्त CFTमध्ये स्प्लिटिंग ऑफ डी ऑर्बिटल इज कन्सिडर. क्रिस्टल फील्ड थिअरीमध्ये फक्त डी ऑर्बिटलचं स्प्लिटिंग कन्सिडर केलेलं आहे. आणि त्याच्यामध्ये काय होतं की जेव्हा तुमचा लायगँड अप्रोच करतो सेंट्रल मेटल ॲटमला, तेव्हा ते डिजनरेट ऑर्बिटलची जी एनर्जी आहे, डिजनरसी दॅट मीन्स द ऑर्बिटल हॅव्हिंग सेम एनर्जी, जेव्हा तो लायगँड अप्रोच करतो तेव्हा ती एनर्जी त्यांची वाढते थोडीशी डी ऑर्बिटलची. आणि जेव्हा तो लायगँड आहे तो जवळ येतो सेंट्रल मेटल ॲटमच्या किंवा तो जवळून अप्रोच करतो, तेव्हा रिपल्शन वाढतं सेंट्रल मेटलच्या इलेक्ट्रॉन्समधलं आणि लायगँडमधलं. त्यामुळे काय होतं, तो डी ऑर्बिटल स्प्लिट अप होतो 2 पार्टमध्ये, Eg आणि T2G मध्ये. आता Eg कुठले ऑर्बिटल्स आहेत? Eg ऑर्बिटल्समध्ये काय होतं की हे ऑर्बिटल जे डी ऑर्बिटल आहेत 5 मी सांगितले, त्याच्यामध्ये 3 जे आहेत DXY, DYZ आणि DXZ हे एक्स वाय आणि झेडच्या ॲक्सिसच्या मध्ये आहेत. आणि उरलेले जे आहेत की DX² -Y² आणि DZ² हे ऑर्बिटल ॲक्सिसवरती आहेत. आणि जेव्हा केव्हा तो लायगँड अप्रोच करतो तुमच्या मेटल ॲटमला, तेव्हा ॲक्सिसवरून तो अप्रोच करतो. आणि म्हणून ही Egची जी आहे एनर्जी ही T2G पेक्षा जास्त असते. कुठे? ऑक्टाहेड्रल कॉम्प्लेक्समध्ये. तुम्ही जर का स्क्वेअर प्लेनरचा विचार केला तर त्याच्यामध्ये ह्याच्या अपोजिट परिस्थिती असेल. T2Gची एनर्जी जास्त असेल Egपेक्षा, कारण अप्रोच ऑफ लायगँड कसा असतो, तो इन बिटवीन द ॲक्सिस असतो. ऑक्टाहेड्रलमध्ये तो ऑन दी ॲक्सिस आहे आणि म्हणून एनर्जी ऑफ Eg ही जास्त आहे T2Gपेक्षा. त्या दोघांच्या मधला डिफरन्स म्हणजे काय आहे तुमचा? डेल्टा 0 आहे आणि तो नेहमी 0 असतो. बॅरी सेंटर आहे तो. बॅरी सेंटर म्हणजे जिथून तुमचं स्प्लिटिंग चालू होतं त्या पॉईंटपासून, त्या पॉईंट म्हणजे तुमचा बॅरी सेंटर आहे. आता त्या पॉईंटपासूनची जी एनर्जी आहे किंवा अंतर Egपर्यंत ते किती कन्सिडर केलं त्यांनी? +0.6 डेल्टा 0 आणि त्याच्या खाली म्हणजे T2Gपर्यंत -0.4 डेल्टा 0 आणि त्या दोघांचं सम घेतलं तर ते 0 येतं. सो बॅरी सेंटर इज अ 0. सो इन केस ऑफ स्ट्रॉंग फील्ड लायगँड काय होतं, जर का तो स्ट्रॉंग फील्ड असेल, त्याच्यामध्ये लिस्ट सांगितली मी स्ट्रॉंग फील्ड लायगँडची, की स्ट्रॉंग फील्ड लायगँडमध्ये कुठले लायगँड येतात? एक कार्बोनिल आहे CO, त्याच्यामध्ये तो सगळ्यात जास्त स्ट्रॉंग आहे. त्याच्यापेक्षा कमी स्ट्रॉंग कुठला असेल? सायनाईड असेल. इथं पण तुमचा कार्बन डोनेट करतो सायनाईडमध्ये इलेक्ट्रॉन पेअर. नंतरचा जो स्ट्रॉंग आहे तो कुठला आहे? EN आहे, इथिलीन डायअमीन. आणि त्याच्यानंतरचा स्ट्रॉंग आहे NH3 अमोनिया. राहिलेले सगळे लायगँड हे वीक फील्ड लायगँडच्या लिस्टमध्ये येतात. आता स्ट्रॉंग फील्ड लायगँडमध्ये काय होतं, जेव्हा स्ट्रॉंग फील्ड लायगँड तुमचा अप्रोच करतो सेंट्रल मेटल ॲटमला, तेव्हा एनर्जी डिफरन्स जो असतो Eg आणि T2G मधला तो जास्त असतो. आणि म्हणजेच काय, जर का एनर्जी डिफरन्स जास्त असेल तर त्याची पेअरिंग एनर्जी कशी असते? कमी असते. एनर्जी डिफरन्स जास्त आहे, म्हणजे पेअर करायला त्याला जास्त एनर्जी लागते आणि म्हणून तिथं तुमचा हन्स रूल फॉलो केला जात नाही. जिथं तुमचा वीक फील्ड लायगॅन्ड असतो तिथं काय असतं, डिफरन्स इन बिटवीन EG अँड T2G इज कसा असतो, कमी असतो डिफरन्स. आणि त्यामुळे काय असतं, तुमचं जे डेल्टा झिरो असतो तो डेल्टा झिरो कमी असतो पेअरिंग एनर्जीपेक्षा. आणि जिथं डेल्टा झिरो कमी असतो पेअरिंग एनर्जीपेक्षा, तिथं काय होतं, पहिल्यांदा सगळे इलेक्ट्रॉन्स सिंगली फिल होतात ऑर्बिटलमध्ये. का? कारण पेअरिंगसाठी जास्त एनर्जी लागते आणि जास्त एनर्जी खर्च करण्यापेक्षा पहिल्यांदा जेवढं तुम्हाला शक्य आहे तेवढे ते सिंगली फिल होतात 5च्या 5 ऑर्बिटलमध्ये. आणि जर का ऑप्शन नसेल तर मात्र पेअरिंग होतं तिथं. जेव्हा ते पहिल्यांदा सिंगली फिल होतात तेव्हा तिथं कुठला रूल वापरला जातो, हन्स रूल वापरला जातो. आणि हन्स रूल काय सांगतो की पहिल्यांदा सगळे ऑर्बिटल सिंगली फिल होतील आणि नंतर इलेक्ट्रॉनचं पेअरिंग प्रत्येक ऑर्बिटलमध्ये केलं जाईल. सो दिस इज अबाउट द स्ट्रॉंग फील्ड लॅगॅन्ड ऑक्टाहेड्रल कॉम्प्लेक्सेस. नेक्स्ट टाइम विल सी द how to find out the crystal field stabilization energy, and we'll take one example for that.